friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today for another herb profile, and today it's going to be on anise hyssop. Now this is one of my favorite herbs in the garden. Even though I haven't had a chance to use it as much as I'd like, I do actually have some dried anise hyssop right here that goes clear back to 2017. So it's also known as licorice mint because it is in the mint family, but it has a very strong licorice flavor. And the parts that are used most are the leaves, but also the flowers. They both have that nice, powerful licorice flavor, which personally I think tastes better than licorice root. Just like star anise, I also think that tastes better than licorice root. One thing that you'll find in common with anything like that has that licorice aroma and flavor to it, they have very similar benefits. Whether it be the star anise, the fennel, the anise hyssop, or the licorice, they'll have their own separate benefits, but they'll also have quite a bit in common. One thing that's great about anise hyssop, unlike licorice root, you have to be a little bit more careful with. Anise hyssop is a little safer than that, especially for people with high blood pressure, and it's safe for everyone from children clear through the elderly. It can be used dried or fresh in teas. It's pretty interesting to take the leaves or the flowers and add them fresh to salads. I've done that before. And you can also use them in baked goods and sauces to add some of that flavor as well as get more of those benefits. And of course, if you're using it for medicinal purposes, you can add it to your cough, cold, and flu syrups, or you can tincture it in whatever form you want. I would suggest with the anise hyssop, if you're going to extract it in 3 parts raw honey and 1 part water, or even 1 part homemade wine or something else. You could also consider using maple syrup to extract it. I think that would be a really good one, especially if you're going to give it to children. Maple syrup would be more preferable for younger children, like age 1 and down, and maybe even age 2 and down if you want to really play it safe with the raw honey. That would be a way you could utilize it for young children for its medicinal properties that I think would also taste really good. Let's get on to the benefits of anise hyssop. So it's really good for any kind of congestion, no matter where it is, and it is an expectorant, so it's going to help loosen up mucus in the chest and in the sinus cavities. I think especially if any time you're trying to loosen up mucus in the sinus cavities, sipping a hot tea is really good for that. So a hot tea with anise hyssop and anything else that's going to be really good for helping with sinus infections and so on, and getting it that hot steam as well, you're going to get all those benefits in there that, you know, it's going to help in several different ways to open up the sinus passages and clear out the congestion. And it's also known as a heart herb because it's beneficial at helping to strengthen a weak heart. It's an excellent antiviral. It can be used as a burn treatment, so you can add it to your poultices that you're going to make to treat burns. Along with lavender is also good. I would say maybe even combine the two together. And any other of the herbs like yarrow and comfrey and calendula, these are all going to be good for that. It is a diaphoretic, so what that means is it's going to help you sweat, and whether it be in the form of helping to bring down the temperature or to sweat out toxins within the body. It's really great at treating poison ivy. So that's something that, let's say you've got a rash from the poison ivy, that's one of those things where you could masticate up the leaf by chewing on it and just stick it right on the affected area. And I would say you could do the same with the burn. It is also a natural antibacterial and anti-inflammatory. It is good for general wound treatment, not just burns. So it would be one of those you could add to your wound healing salves if you would prefer. So generally good for respiratory conditions and also as a good cough suppressant. So we don't always want to suppress a cough if it's a productive cough, but sometimes we can get those coughs that are just not, when we get certain colds or flus that are not at all productive and they just tear up the throat. So adding something like your anise hyssop leaves and flowers to your cough, cold, and flu remedy or syrup, whichever one you make. I'll go ahead and link down below to my most current recipe, and you could consider switching up any of the herbs in there. Like, let's say you want to take out the star anise because that's too expensive, you can't grow it, and you could replace it with this or add it to that. It's also good for digestive health and helping to prevent gas and bloating. So this is one that I just recently went in and added to my list on digestive health. So I did the video, but then I also did a written list. So every time I find something new, another one that's good for that or any of those others, I go back in and add them to the list, even though I didn't think to say them in the video itself. And it's also a natural sedative, so that could be one you could use as a tea in the evening where you're just trying to calm down or you're very stressed out. Another good one to go in that family. So me, I would, if I was going to use it in that case, I would find myself wanting to mix it with the catnip leaves and flowers to make a nice tea, because I found the catnip to be very helpful. So this could be something I would mix with that to also help with the flavor along with the mojito mint. And back to gut health again, it also is helpful at preventing ulcers. So not only is it a natural sedative and help to relieve stress, it's also going to help prevent the ulcers that are caused by stress. It may also help with asthma, which, coming back to the respiratory thing again, and in helping to prevent and treat cancer. So that's my little bit on anise hyssop and its benefits. Now, anise hyssop can be pretty easy to grow because it's a mint, but it's not, it doesn't take over the same way other mints do. It's more, I would say, like catnip in the way it grows. It can spread and it self-seeds very well. The reason I don't have as much put up, even though I've been growing it for quite a few years, is I went through a whole year or two where I didn't have any, because the slugs kept demolishing it. But once we got chickens, not only did the chickens help keep the slug population down so my anise hyssop could grow again, they actually helped to stimulate the growth by causing some seeds in there that had been dormant for a couple of years to start growing. And that's the reason I got anise hyssop back in my garden again. I was thinking about giving up on it and I was going to try the Korean hyssop, but that never did anything for me. Just be aware that if you live in a high slug population area like we do, slugs love it. So you're going to want to find all the methods you can think of to help keep the slugs out of that area. When it comes to starting any kind of herb, I always find it best. In fact, I'm going to do a separate video just on this, but to start it, especially if you're new to it, to start it indoors and in a small pot, and then once it gets to a certain size, sometimes it's even best to leave it in that pot or graduate it to a bigger pot until the next year, and then figure out where you want to put it to keep it established. But it is a perennial, so it will die back in the fall, and then it will start growing again in the spring. Since my plants are still fairly young, I've been letting them get well established before I harvest too much more out of them, also so I can save the seeds, because I've been putting the seeds up on our store. I can't guarantee by the time you see this video that they'll still be listed on the store, so if you miss out because they're sold out, then I will have more again next year. But I did get a pretty good harvest of seed this year, so because of that, I'm hoping this next summer, when it's coming in plentiful, that I'll start being able to save up more leaves and flowers for putting up for making teas and adding to cough, cold, and flu syrups, and then also using fresh however I want. And I might even consider trying it in some baked goods. Okay, so before I close out this video, what I'd really like is anyone who is either growing anise hyssop, or even if you're buying it dried and using it, how are you using it in various things? Are you using it in salves, teas? Are you baking with it? How well does it grow for you if you are growing it? And if you are growing it, also make sure that you share what kind of climate you live in. Now remember, we are in rain country. We're not far from the rainforest. And though it doesn't grow as great as other mints for us, it still does pretty well in our very wet and cool climate that we have. So make sure you share enough information that people can have a pretty good idea if that's going to be something they might want to consider for their own garden. And also keep in mind, just because one herb is good for so many things, if it doesn't grow in your area, remember there's many more herbs that can do very much the same kind of thing. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to check out my whole playlist I've been working on for over 5 years now on the herb profiles that I'll be linking in the description box down below by clicking on either show more to open that description box if you're on a PC, or that little gray triangle down here on this side if you're on a smart device. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.